use here?
Squared.
Yes, I should use square. And do I use it on both sides or just one? Ooh.
On both.
Yeah, let me refocus this document camera. I'm sorry. Okay, so I'm going to use this on both sides. And that's because, why did I use the square brackets?
Because it's a closed circle.
Yeah, I have closed circles on either side. Now, how about the range?
The range is gonna be -5 and 4.
Yes, good. -5 to 4. And what type of parentheses or brackets am I going to use for that one?
Round.
Why round?
Because there's no like dots. It's not included.
So you're right that there are no dots, but this line kind of implies that there are infinitely many dots all the way along.
Okay.
And so we're actually going to use square brackets. We only will use the parenthesis, the open bracket, if there is an open dot specifically, or you have plus or minus infinity.
Okay.
Okay, good job, Katie. Thank you so much. Okay, and remember that domain goes left to right and range goes down to up. Okay. What questions does anybody have about number 1? There is one more type of problem that I would like to go over in this little section because it's a little bit specific. So, oh, not number 2. I want to go over number 3 real quick. Okay, so it's this one on the screen. And it says, what's the domain when the range is 2? Okay, so I'm going to kind of draw it out, sketch it out a little bit. Okay, so we have something like this. Okay, and 2 is labeled like right around here. Okay, now what it means by what is the domain when the range is 2, it's asking you to look at where your output or your y value is 2 and give the corresponding x values. Okay, so let's see. Amar, are you there?
Yes.
Okay, so Amar, it's very unclear on the graph that I drew, but on this one, could you guess about where we have, what x value corresponds to this particular y value right here, where the y value is 2? What's the corresponding x? Remember our x-axis is down here and our y-axis is up here. So what x value corresponds to this y value right here? What value do you think?
Y-axis?
On the x-axis, what value on the x-axis corresponds to that point right there?
-2?
Not quite. So our point here corresponds to the y value 2. This is y equals 2. And if we map it straight down on our graph, it looks like we mapped the x value 1. Okay, so our domain, when the range is 2, is going to have at least the x value 1 in it. Does that make sense to you, Amar? Okay, so there's going to be one more place. So if I map along here where my y value is 2, I get a point right here that intersects with our function. So I need to figure out what x value that one has. Okay, so it's right about here, and I mapped it down already. And if I look at, so 3 is about right here, 4 is about right there. Okay, so if I mark my grid, what x value does this point map down to?
Yeah.
So what x value does that point map down to? So about what number is this? You can make a guess because it's not exact.
Between 3 and 4?
Yeah, so what's the number between 3 and 4?
Negative
It's not
4?
gonna be negative because it's between two positive numbers.
Oh,
Okay, so what's a number that's partway between 3 and 4? Maybe 3.5? Okay. Omar, what questions do you have about that? It doesn't really seem like
I think 0.
So 0 is not between 3 and 4.
I don't know.
Do you understand the question I'm asking?
No.
What number is between 3 and 4? We're looking for some sort of number between there. Amar, if you would make a tutoring appointment with me on Friday, we can go through this in more depth, okay?
Okay.
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 All right. What questions does anybody have about numbers 1 or 3 that we've gone through? Okay, if there are no questions, let's move on to section 1.2. Okay, so this was section 1.1, and you need to write these down, these solutions that we just went through, okay? Because you are going to turn in this review to me. All right, I will post solutions, but you're gonna have to turn in your review before the solutions are posted. And then the solutions will open up. So I want you guys to have the ones that we do together in class on your own paper. So make sure you're writing these down. So we've done 2 problems in 1.1. So we're going to move on to 1.2, which is solving the absolute value equations. Okay, so we're moving on to 1.2. I'm going to do a little wiggle to show that we're moving on to a next section. And then can somebody tell me one of these 6 through 9 that looks particularly challenging to them, and we can do that one. Okay, if nobody's gonna pick, I'm gonna pick somebody to pick. Deborah's not here. Stephanie had Wi-Fi issues. Ruby? Ruby?
7.
Okay, so 7 looks challenging to you. So we're gonna do number 7. Okay, so we're solving this equation. Do you remember the first step in solving absolute value in equations? Ruby?
Oh. You add the 4 to the negative 64, right?
Yeah, that is what I'm gonna do. And that's part of our goal is to isolate this absolute value, right?
Yeah.
So we're gonna add 4 to both sides. So we end up with 3 times the absolute value of 2x plus 7. And then negative 64 plus 4 should give me negative 60. Now what do I need to do to solve or to isolate the absolute value? So there's a 3 in front of here. And what operation is going on between the 3 and the absolute value?
You multiply.
Yeah, so what's the opposite of multiplication?
Divide.
Yeah, so let's divide both sides by 3. Okay, so I'm going to have the absolute value of 2x plus 7 equals negative 20. Okay, now, Ruby, is this possible?
No.
No, why? What type of outputs does an absolute value have? Are they going to be positive or negative?
They go positive.
Yeah, absolute values are always positive. So they can never equal a negative number. So we have a contradiction. Okay, so the answer to this one is going to be that there are no solutions. Ruby, does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for your help. Okay, does anybody want me to do another absolute value equation? Because we didn't really quite go through all of one, but if you guys feel pretty confident about these equations, I'm happy to move on. Okay, if nobody is going to volunteer to another one for us to do, we'll move on. But I really need you guys to ask questions, okay? This is a way, we are basically studying for your test right now, okay? So this is for you guys, so make sure you're utilizing it as much as possible. So if you guys are okay with absolute value equations, we're going to move on to absolute value inequalities. So this is section 1.3, okay? And let's see, Tyrell, I know that your mic doesn't work. Can you send me a number that looks the most challenging for your mind here? And then we'll do that together. And let me scoot this over so you can see all the numbers. So Tyrell says number 11, okay? So we're gonna do number 11 together. So we have the absolute value of x minus 4 all over 5 is less than or equal to 2, okay? So we have this inequality, and the very first thing we want to do, just like with our equations, is isolate this absolute value, okay? So let's see, Jordan, Warren, are you here? Jordan, are you here? Okay, we'll call on Jordan in a little bit. I know he's here, but he's not answering. Henry?
Yeah.
Okay, so what's with the absolute value expression that I need to move?
Wait, what you mean that you need to move?
So there is another number that's outside of the absolute value expression that really needs to move in order for us to solve the inequality. So what number is that?
The 5?
Yeah, and what operation is the 5 doing with the absolute value?
Division?
Yeah, so we need to do the opposite. So what do we do?
Multiply it?
Yeah, so we're going to multiply both sides by 5. We'll have x minus 4 is less than or equal to, and 2 times 5 is 10. Okay, thank you. And now, Henry, do you remember the 2 forms of this inequality that we write so that we can solve it?
The 2 forms?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, isn't it like a positive and a negative?
Yeah, exactly. Can you tell me what to write?
So x minus 4 is greater than or equal to 10, and x plus 4 is greater than or equal to 10.
So for the first one, you said greater than or equal to, what symbol is this right here?
I mean less than, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so we're going to have less than or equal to 10. And then for the next one, we'll have x minus 4 is what?
Greater, I mean less than or equal to 10.
No, you're right. Greater than or equal to
Okay. 10.
negative 10. Remember what
Yeah, negative.
we have one with the positive, one with the negative, and we flip the sign with the negative. Okay, so what questions does anybody have about that? I'm gonna check. I think somebody's trying to get in. Okay, so what questions does anybody have about how we split those two inequalities?
I have a question.
Yeah, Henry.
Is the test gonna be as long as the review?
No, the test will be about 20, a little over 20 questions.